Going in 10. 3, 2, 1, go!
What's up, guys? This week's message of the week is CrossFit is observable, measurable, repeatable. Today I am sitting with Samantha, Clarissa, and Ricky, and we are going to go through this. Starting with how you would just brief this in a regular class. Samantha, you can start.
CrossFit is observable, measurable, repeatable is a core component of what was put together when the founder, Greg Glassman, came up with CrossFit. He was one of the first to put like standards and a clock and measurable components to your fitness in a way that then you can make sure it is safe, effective, and efficient.
Love it. Clarissa?
For observable, measure, reputable, I typically break it down and say, okay, observable, typically something that's concrete that we can look at, and then measurable, something that we can measure, right? And then repeatable, something that we can repeat. So I break down a typical workout. If we look at like 200 wall balls, for example, I can observe 200 wall balls. I can see them being done. I can measure the amount of time. That one would be 4 times 200 wall balls. So I'd measure how much time it would take me to do 200 wall balls. And then I would repeat that to see that I could do it faster as time went on.
Great. Ricky?
Mine is much shorter. I would just say that between these three things, this is how you can attest to your level of fitness, right? To see these three variables are going to distinguish, have you become fitter or have you not, right? You need these three kind of attributes to really gauge your progress in fitness and health.
Love that. So we are going to break these down one word at a time. So we're going to start with observable. What does that mean and why is it important? Whoever wants to start can start.
I just
no,
I got a double side eye. So
No.
Observable to me is where kind of your movement expectations and your movement, I hate saying the word standards, come in, but kind of what we are looking for from a movement. So right, squatting below parallel, full extension of your arms overhead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things that you can see from a movement or your coach can see from a movement, and kind of expectations of what a movement is going to be.
How would you define, well, one, why don't you like the word standard? And how would you try to change the framework around what that means in CrossFit?
Yeah, because I think often when people hear standard, they think of a competition standard. And I wish people would think of it more as the bare minimum of what I want your range of motion of your joints to be able to do. Right? So we are squatting below parallel. Well, let me go back to the competition standard. The competition standards were developed because that is necessary to have a competition. You have to have standards. And they are on a foundation of, like I said, that bare minimum of what we want your joints to be able to do, right? I want your hips to be able to go below parallel for your life. Like I want you to be able to do that pull up that way because it's good for the shoulders to be able to move through those range of motion. That does not mean that it should be the end range of motion that you are trying to achieve, right? So I wish people thought of it more as the bare minimum and that they are trying to push the range of motion of their joints to its fullest potential safely. That's what I kind of wish like was thought of as standard.
Yeah, I really love that. Okay, observable. Does anyone have anything else to say about observable?
I really think it like comes down to it is something that we can observe, right? Like it is not, we can look at a wall ball and see like kind of like Samantha said, you're doing a wall ball, you go down depth, you come back up to the top, which I think will become important when we get into the next one of repeatable. Because if you don't do that same observable movement the next time in the same way, then your repeatable and your measurable really might not be accurate.
Yeah, I kind of want to go to that wall ball standard really fast and talk about, this standard. And that full squat to death is the most important. And then we have that explosive toss as well, which for the range of motion of the joints isn't necessarily as important. But if you were to do 200 wall balls and one time you hit the yellow and one time you hit the gray, that's a different workout. You're throwing it a whole entire foot higher. It's going to be that much slower, right? And so that's another reason why those standards are really, really important.
I think Samantha touched on this slightly, not slightly, she touched it on a major point, which was the safety side of this, right? As an observable movement, right? You can hit depth and you can hit extension, but there is a thing as being unsafe in those movements, right? 1,000% we see this as coaches, and even members can identify an unsafe observable movement. You may hit full range, you may hit squat depth, you may extend at the top of a deadlift, but there is such a thing as overextension in a deadlift. There is too low in a squat that it becomes no longer sustainable. So that observable piece is also, yes, hit all those bullet points, those expectations, the standards, whatever word you want to kind of use there. However, it's also to make sure that we are moving safely through those observable movements. And that's, as coaches, what we're really looking for. You may be hitting squat depth, but if we see something that becomes a little bit iffy, that's when we're going to step in and say, good job, love that. Let's fix a couple things, right? So that as you progress, you are going to continually know those points and safely move
Yeah.
through them as well.
I really like that point on, the squat and the deadlift is, yes, we want you full range of motion,
Yeah.
but too much can cause movement fault, right? Like
Correct.
you said, like the standing of the deadlift, if you're overextending the spine, we want it to stay safe. And same with that squat. It's great if you can get really low, but are you too low that your pelvic tilts in,
Correct.
right? Do you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I think that that doesn't always even happen to our quote unquote standard. So I want your full range of motion to be your safest full range of motion for your joints,
Love that.
right? And you are striving to make it better. Always, all of us are, right? Like you are striving to make that full range of motion and your mobility around your joints better. But if your squat is only safe above parallel, that is your squat for right now until we improve your mobility. And we're going to get into this with like the measurable, but then you just need to make sure that you're making note of that. Because your goal is going to be to improve that range of motion around your joint. And so that is your observable movement at that point in time. And you're constantly trying to improve it around that.
Yeah, definitely. So
No. I think it was just, as you said, that one ping thing that like popped up into my head was the sustainability or the longevity of the movement, right? That's what that is. With that observable trait is you want to be able to sustain that for a long time. Somebody in their 20s can probably go, pardon my French, ass to grass. But as you progress and maybe get older and maybe those joints start to become a little bit more fatigued, right? You want to be able to learn that mechanic behind what is safe for you as we get longer into this fitness. It's about sustainability and longevity. So moving safe first, whatever your range of motion is, to Samantha's point, whatever that range of motion is, until we can safely get to where we want to see it, that's the best thing we can do.
And
nice.
then if we're repeating and measuring, it might not necessarily only be, did I do my 200 wall balls faster? But it's like, okay, maybe last time I did these 200 wall balls, I couldn't squat below parallel. But now this time on every one of those wall balls, I can squat. So maybe that's a different observable, measurable point in our continuum.
Absolutely. Anything else you guys want to touch on observable?
It's going to come back around. I have
It
a
will.
feeling it's going to circle back at some point.
It will.
So
They all circle back to each other. Okay, then let's get into measurable. What does that mean and why is that important? Someone else gets to start.
I can go. I won't look at you, Samantha. So that measurable piece, there's a lot that can be measured, right? You talk about time domains. You talk about how many rounds and reps in a time domain. How fast can you do it? How much can you move in a time? There's so many ways to measure this, and then it kind of goes back to that you're measuring based off of you, right? You're measuring all of those attributes against yourself, not others. You are measuring your time domains off of your capacity. But I know we're going to get it more into the weeds here, so I'm just going to pause there. Guys, proceed.
I would say that there's 3 main ways that we measure workouts in CrossFit: for time, for reps, and for weight. are kind of like the 3 measurable, right? So like we've talked a lot about my 200 wall balls. That one would be for time. But there's also workouts where we do, like, let's say we change that and I'm going to say in 10 minutes, how many wall balls can I get? So now I'm measuring for reps. And then we just did our lift off where that was measured for what's my heaviest weight I can get for these 3 lifts.
But there's also a combination piece there too, right? Like
Yeah.
what weight are you using for those wall balls?
Correct.
There's the observable piece that we talked about. Like, did you do the 200 wall balls? And at that point, I was using a 10-pound ball and was able to toss, below the 9-foot target or wherever, right? And then now I do it this time and I'm using a 14-pound wall, whatever. So like all of those pieces come into play, right? There's a combo all the time. I think the main piece that I want to note with measurable is that really is where it is on you. And you as the athlete have to be honest with yourself honest, because we're not going to check you.
Nope.
If you log it wrong, or if you're not counting your reps, or if you're, missing depth, or if you're whatever, um, that is where you have to be honest with yourself and your logging. And it is on you to make sure that if you're not hitting the target, that's okay. If that's not like you don't have the strength yet to get a full squat and hit your target, that's okay. But you need to make sure you're noting things like that.
Yes.
And you need to make sure that you're being accurate with yourself, because that is going to be fundamental to when we get into the repeatable piece, right?
I think on another point, and I might derail here a little bit on that measurable piece. We're talking strictly about physical attributes or, the actual exercising, but these measurables of, okay, bringing into, let's say, the sick wellness fitness continuum here, right? When you start doing the measurable there, you're also measuring body weight, like, right, body fat percentage. You're talking about all of those other things that you can be measured, and that is also going to be put onto the scale of the sickness wellness fitness continuum a little bit, right? Those measurable traits of like, did you lift more weight? Okay, if yes, we're moving upwards on that continuum. Did you move faster? Moving up, right? All of those things are measuring almost your fitness to an extent. And again, I may be derailing this slightly, but I feel like that is also something that with measurable, you also have to add in that piece a little bit.
Yeah.
No, that's huge. I mean, that continuum, you can put any marker on that continuum, right? Our fitness continuum there, including all those things you said, and your work capacity and your fitness.
Fitness, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so measuring that accurately, like, is going to help you with where you're at there.
Yeah. And I think tying it back together, right? When you're talking about logging, when you're talking about the standards or the points of performance that are required in a movement, right? When you talk about that, I kind of almost think of Fran. This is like a really good, right? 2159. You've got pull-ups and you got thrusters. Okay. Now measuring this, right? We talk about it is a 4-time piece. So the faster you are, the fitter you are. Now I'm going to change the scenario slightly. Let's say you've got someone who just came in. They're able to do ring rows and maybe an empty bar or PVC pipe. Okay. They're going to finish that workout probably pretty quickly. Right? Now, let's say we test that again in 8 months to a year. They've been working on pull-ups, they're working on squat capacity. We now make them do an assisted pull-up, and we've now added weight onto that bar. Their time is most likely going to get longer, like it's going to take them longer, but that doesn't mean their fitness has decreased. It means that they've increased in the fitness, right? We've just now loaded them. We have changed the movements. They've gotten fitter. Maybe that time's gotten slower, but that doesn't mean taking away from it.
For
right?
sure.
And I think that's an important piece to also note when people come into the gym. If your time gets slower, but your movements have increased in difficulty, it means you've gotten fitter. Just because your time maybe be a little bit less or you weren't able to get as far that time around does not mean, it's kind of apples to oranges a little bit on that.
Yeah, you need to consider all components of what you did in the workout, right? So your fitness is your, I think I've done this in another podcast, but your force times distance divided by your time, right? So the time or the output isn't the only component that you need to consider. So if you are switching from a ring row to a pull up, the force or the weight that you are moving is much heavier,
Yes.
right? the distance is probably similar. Same thing, your weight on that barbell, that force or that weight is much heavier. So that numerator of that equation is going to be much larger. Even if that time is a little bit longer,
Mhm.
it's probably going to counterbalance or not even equal out how much more weight you're moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I even keep track of, particularly with benchmarks, like Salty Karen is one that comes to mind. Is I'm like, I did this in July at 4 p.m. That is a different stimulus than at 6 a.m. in April,
Yeah.
right? Because July, it's and 4 p.m. is the heat of the day, and like that can even that's another variable within the measurement,
Mhm.
right?
I almost think like if I were gonna plot a graph, right, of like my points, right, of all my repeats, and this isn't always like the perfect answer because like in Ricky's example, right, as a new beginner, right, I'm gonna come in and maybe I'm gonna do Fran with that, ring row barbell. But when I think about like when I look at my workouts, and of course at this point I've done CrossFit for a long time, I try to only compare like my points for my repeatable piece in like the way that I did it exactly that same workout. So to me, it's kind of like when I put a new point on my graph of now I'm doing it with my 65-pound barbell and my pull up, I can kind of look at like that repeat from the barbell and the ring row, but I almost start to say like I have a new graph now
Mm-hmm.
to compare against like the when I look at like, okay, last time I did this workout exactly the same, how does my like time or rep compare to that? And again, that's I think kind of as you get longer in CrossFit is like a little bit more achievable. I think as you like start CrossFit, your points are going to kind of vary a lot more between
Mm-hmm.
um needing to look at, okay, was my time slower, but is that because I did it harder?
Right. I actually agree with you on that. I kind of do that with myself as well. And I always still compare it to the other one. But then once I've kind of done that, I'm like, okay, now this is a new point. Right? Um, yes, it's harder and maybe my time was slower, but that more just tells me like, okay, it's not that I'm less fit. It was different. Is kind of how I see that.
And I also think we need a level set with people. Like, if you do CrossFit for a long time, like, your graph is not going to be linear forever, right? Like,
Unfortunately.
I just saw Samantha's face.
like, I was taught, we recently just did, what was it, Salty 50. And I looked like the last time I did Salty 50 was in 2023. And my time was 3.5 minutes slower this time than it was in 2023. Does that mean I'm like less fit? Maybe, but not necessarily. Like right now, I'm like the strongest I've ever been, right? So, like, my cardio might not be quite there, but it's like over time. And to your point of like, did I do this workout in July at 6 p.m. or did I do it in December at 6 in the morning? Like, that graph is not always going to be linear throughout time. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And life also happens as well.
That's also really important. There is no one workout that determines your fitness.
No.
Like
Absolutely.
it is
Absolutely.
correct. Your months and months of
Yes.
data points that should be considered.
Right. I would not have a graph of Fran, and that's the only graph I
Correct.
look at, right?
Yes.
It's okay, my Fran time was worse, but let's look at the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Did I do 150 wall balls yesterday? And maybe that's why my Fran time is worse? Like, maybe, right? You kind of have to look at it as a whole program and like less of one workout, right?
Yeah.
The tests are there so that we can test ourselves and see where we're at, but they do not define everything that we do in here.
And I think this conversation is happening across, if we were to add all of our time in CrossFit together, we're talking about decades of experience between the four of us, right? I don't want to put that into a number, but it is decades, okay, guys? So you're talking about a long time between the four of us who have experienced the ups, the downs, the plateaus in CrossFit or in your fitness, in your health. And I think when I brought that point up, it was trying to bring awareness to those that are maybe starting CrossFit. Like, you need to understand the difference between you did this movement, you did this named workout, you've now changed the movements, your times got slower. Not everyone is immediately going to understand. We look at it and say, you did almost a completely different workout, right? But we need to address that part of it of saying, not one workout defines your fitness. Every workout, as you learn movements and you start progressing towards beautiful, perfect movements, let's call it, whatever that means to you, right? It is going to get harder, and you need to level set what that is going to look like workout after workout, week after week. So it's just making sure that you understand those measurements are not always the same, even though the movements can be considered the same.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I think that's why it's so important to measure accurately. If you measure, like if you write something down and just say, I did Fran and this was my time,
Yes.
and you did ring rows and thrusters with a PVC pipe, which great,
Yes,
just do that
please.
if that's where you're at. And then you do it again and you forgot that that's how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I was 2 minutes slower.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's right. Like that's where this measurement piece comes in of holistically measuring what you actually did.
Yeah. I would say too, when you very first start CrossFit, you are going to, for most, easily see where your fitness has improved,
Yes.
right? You are going to be able to run a little bit. You're going to be able to run. Okay. You're going to be able to run. You're going to maybe go from a ring row to a jumping pull up. Like you're going to be able to PR your lift every single time you lift. And it's super fun. So that is like a little bit easier to see your progress. It's when you get into the decades of experience where you have to sometimes be like, wow, in 2026, I did Fran at this time. And in 2019, I did it at this time. I'm fitter. Like then when right? That's kind of where it's fun to see that progress is through that decade of experience, because Fran from 6 months ago to Fran to today is going to be different. But if I look at Fran from when I started versus Fran now, it's way different. Even like, I would say it's even the same with like body composition. Like when I first started CrossFit, I was like 135 pounds.
Can we pull a picture of you?
Yeah, you're
I was like,
tiny.
I was like 135 pounds, and I actually came across my 2019 InBody that I did at Vasa.
Amazing.
And from that InBody to my most recent InBody, I'd gained like 30 pounds of skeletal muscle mass.
Yeah.
So it's just like kind of interesting, like that's another point of measurement that is going to change a lot at the very beginning. And then as you get into it, it's going to change less and less.
And isn't it so interesting that it's more important sometimes that measurement to stay consistent? Like, right. So when you first start CrossFit, you're going to probably just peak, right? For the first few years, you're going to be like, I am unstoppable. And then as you start getting fun, this is not a negative way. This is actually more important, is that as you stay consistent with your nutrition, with the workouts, with staying active inside, outside the gym, it's almost important to stay consistent or even close to those numbers. If I am within like a minute, 30 seconds or so of my Fran time, I'm saying a minute up to a minute, or like right around that time, I'm going to be pretty dang impressed with myself. If I can maintain that year over year and I'm staying consistent around that, I'm going to say that I am still going towards the fitness side of that continuum. And talking about measurement of body fat and muscle mass, right? Again, maybe your body weight has gone up, but did it get replaced with a lot of muscle? I'm going to say you're looking great.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. I'm like, if I'm in like the 90% range of my best, I'm like, that's
let's go.
Huge. Like that's really a big win.
Yeah.
Especially as you start to get to the point where you are finding your maxes, whether that's with weight or workouts, or like I'm really finding the fastest I can go, being within a couple seconds or a couple pounds or whatever that looks like of that score is still showing that you are maintaining, if not increasing, fitness.
Yes.
And I won't spend too much time on this, but I just want to plug this in for those, because I think we spent a lot of time talking about kind of like people new to CrossFit and what that looks like. But for those of us that have like been doing CrossFit for a long time, and let's say maybe I'm doing that benchmark, let's say Salty 50, and I'm doing that as prescribed, like time over time and over time, and you do a really good job at this. But another point that you can start logging is like, how did I break up this workout, right? So now I'm at the point where I'm doing this prescribed every time, but maybe like on my 50 toes to bar, last time I did this, I did sets of 5. And now this time I did this, let's say I did sets of 10 of my toes to bar. That is like something else that we can put in our notes to our workouts and log that. And it's also, I think, good to look at, was that better or worse for me? If I tried to do 25 and 25 toes to bar, did that kill me for the other movement?
Did I do singles on my wall balls?
Like, dude, yes.
I tossed and let it fall to the ground every time.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I really
Yeah.
like that point. Anything else you guys want to talk about measurable? Okay. Last one, repeatable. What does that mean and why is that important? Ressa, you got to start this one.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, this is my favorite part of it because to me, this kind of brings it all together. And it's like the reason why I observe and why I measure is so that I can repeat and I can see, did I get better? Or, I mean, did I get worse? Like, and if I got worse, what was the reason for like maybe why this got worse? But if I don't observe correctly and I don't measure correctly, then I can't repeat correctly, or I just don't have, right? Like in Samantha's example, where that person didn't log that they did ring rows and that barbell. How do I know that this was like this repeat, like did anything for me? Like, how can I measure that against anything? And to me, the big crux of this is being able to like repeat and measure in that continuum whether I'm getting fitter or not.
yeah, I like that. One thing I want to say on this is every time we repeat something, we want to try to control as many variables as possible because we are human beings that live lives outside of the gym and we have a lot of things that we cannot control. So like for instance, you kind of mentioned, well, why did I maybe get slower? If you're repeating that workout the exact same and you compare it to a time that you did it before, you can be like, what was my nutrition like when I was there? Was it in July and I was dialed in and I was slept 10 hours and I did it at whatever time and like whatever? Or maybe in comparison, it's like, oh, I got way better, but I'm really dialed in right now. Whereas in the past, I was like, it's Christmas time, gaining some weight, like whatever. There's a lot of things outside of just the workout that we can't really control that are also going to come into play there.
Yeah, when I repeat benchmarks, I try to do it at like the same time. So like 6 p.m. is my typical class. I try, if it's a benchmark day, I really try to get there to do it at 6 p.m. to have it be at that kind of same stimulus of time of day. Because I know for me personally, doing a workout at 7 a.m. versus 6 p.m. is very different. And so if I'm really trying to like repeat as much consistently as possible, I will try to get those variables the same. Obviously, life happens and it's not always feasible, right? Like
right.
maybe I have something going on and I just can't do it. But like I will try to keep those variables as consistent as I can in that repeat.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad. And I just want to like emphasize that if your schedule is a little more sporadic, that does not mean your workouts are not repeatable.
No.
Right.
I know that's not what
Absolutely.
you were saying,
Yes.
but I just want to like really emphasize.
Yeah. Come to the gym, even if
Yeah.
it's not at the same time.
Okay. And especially like to Clarissa's point, if you are sporadically training, that is going to reflect in everything you're measuring and repeat, right?
Mhm.
Like my schedule's a little less consistent than hers, so I worry way less about that. And yes, all those factors still come into play, but uh, I don't notice the impact as much if I'm training at a different time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you're consistently training at multiple different times, you probably aren't going to as well.
Right. Yeah.
That's your consistency.
Right,
Like
exactly.
that's your consistency is I come at 4 o'clock all the time, so I expect chaos. I come at 4 and I expect maybe I'll figure it out and maybe I won't. But again, I think so even with that repeatable piece, like we talk a lot about logging your scores, right? Or correctly reflecting all that information. And I can't emphasize how important that is because not only are you sometimes what I like to do, if people ever go back to see notes that I put in on Beyond the Whiteboard when I talk about a certain workout, sometimes I'll just go, not good, felt like crap. Like, right? Like there are times that I'm not seeing like how I broke something up. Sometimes I do of like, okay, today felt really good. This is how I broke it up. And then I will put a note like felt on top of it. But there's a lot of workouts that I will put in. And if I put a note, I'm like, yeah, it wasn't happening. Like today I wasn't sleeping well, or I didn't eat well, or I just didn't feel myself. Right, you need to also kind of set yourself up to, how are you feeling? How are you moving? Right? You talked about the comfort weight that we gain maybe during the holidays. I like to call it comfort weight. Or you feel like you're just on top of the world because it's July, it's warm outside. I don't need a ton of a warm up to get my body primed and ready to go. It's very different in December. Right? You're cold, your body's feeling a little bit more fatigued, you're feeling stiff, talking about your 30s. And, you just have to also keep that in mind when you are repeating. Level set with yourself, right? And also be honest with yourself on these movements. If you feel like you're like, no, I was flying through those push-ups, chest wasn't touching the ground, bud. So be honest with yourself in those moments, because you don't want to repeat a workout against I don't want to use this word, but this is the only thing that's coming, a lie. Right? You do not want to repeat a workout under false pretenses.
For sure.
I was gonna say this anyway, but this leads in well. I think people underestimate, especially new, when they're starting, how much they are going to want to know how far they've come once they get there. And then they're there and it's too late. I use this with the open all the time, where people are like, oh, well, I just started, so I don't want to do the open. And I'm like, that is the best time to do the open, because then next year you're going to wish you knew how you did, so you can see how far you improved. Like
Absolutely.
next year you are going to want that number, right?
Yep.
So when you're first starting, I urge you to still log. And that still comes to, if you have been doing CrossFit and you aren't always honest with yourself, to try and bring that in, because when we repeat the workout, like, we are setting you up for success in being able to track stuff, because we have benchmarks. We set them, we do that for you. And so if you are accurately logging your workouts yourself, then you are going to be able to repeat those. And I think people underestimate how much they're going to want that data in the future,
1,000%.
once they get to that point that they've made the improvements.
Well, we keep talking about repeatable regards to workouts or benchmarks, right? Like Cindy or Fran or Helen, anything like that. Truth is all of these movements are repeatable. And every movement has its own point that you need to hit, right? We know what those are in a squat. We know what they are in a pull-up. Now, Samantha brought up a really good point, the open. Now, let's say you're like, I am awesome at pull-ups. And then you get to the pull-up bar during the open and you're getting no reps because you never lock out at the bottom, right? You're never at extension at the bottom of that pull-up, and your chin's never, or it's never crossing over the pull-up bar, right? All of those things. Movements are repeatable for a reason, because we need to have that as your marker. So then as you progress, as you get better, you're going to see, I actually am getting faster because I know that I've done all of those things. For every single movement, I've trained that way. So when we as coaches come to you and say, hey, I need you to get lower on that squat, it's not because we want to not give you a high five or give you, a little pat on the back. We're trying to make sure you understand what is being asked of you so that you can come back to that every single time. Repeat that movement week over week, month over month. Because again, this is why these 3 words are the key components of what we do in here every day.
And I think it's not only for like the benchmarks. Like if you're coming here, like example, like we've been working through the 10 rep bench cycle. And I had like someone in class that I was helping, and he was like, what do you think I should do for this week? I'm like, well, what'd you do last week?
Totally.
And they're like, well, I think I did this. And I'm like, do you log it? And they didn't log it. And I'm like, okay, well, based off what you thought, like, let's try these. And then they failed set 2 and 3. And I'm like, maybe we didn't have what last week was correctly. And so maybe I base set 2 and 3 here incorrectly based off, but I don't know that unless like I need you to log this. So that like, next week when we do like our 10 rep cycle of the bench, like we can accurately do these 3 sets for you.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I kind of want to touch on that you both just talked about is, well, everyday workouts. We do workouts every day. This is not just about benchmark day,
True.
right? Benchmark day is not the only day we should hold the standard. But there are 6 other days in the week that I like to think of as intentional training days, right? There's intentional training days and there's a test day.
Mhm.
For my intentional training days, I don't no rep myself. Okay. Like if my toes don't hit the bar, I'm counting that rep, but I am saying in my head, I am aware that my toes did not hit the bar.
Sure.
Like I'm aware. Because then when a benchmark comes and my toes don't hit the bar, I know I need to do another rep, right? It's when you don't really understand the standard. You're like, wait, I'm doing chest to bar. I'm like, but your chest isn't touching the bar,
Mhm.
right? Like that's the idea is that you're getting more range of motion. Your chest is touching the bar, right? You don't have to sit here all day and no rep yourself. You just need to have some awareness of what the range of motion and standard is.
I love that. Yeah, I don't ever expect you to be perfect, especially on a training day.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And let's say you're at the point where it's like your no reps aren't one-offs and it is a benchmark day, but you're still really striving to get the toes to the bar and you're this far away. I just need you to log it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Take note.
I don't need you to beat yourself up about it. I just need you to log it
Yeah, absolutely.
and strive to be better. Like that's it.
And I think it's also important for us as coaches to like, and I think we do a really good job in this gym, but like for our members to understand what is the standard of these movements. Cause like not here, but in my old gym, I had someone that I was like, hey, like you need to touch your chest to the bar for a chest to bar. And they're like, oh, I never knew that the standard was that I actually have to touch my chest. And he'd been doing CrossFit for years, right? So like his coaches had never told him like the standard of a chest to bar is you need to touch your chest to the bar. And so like it's important that us as coaches for new members, like that they understand what is, and they're maybe working up to hitting that standard, right? But that they like know what that standard is.
Right. And it like you might not think that it's a big deal, but yeah, maybe your chest is as high as the bar, but this is a different range of motion than this, right? So those are some things that we as coaches realize and notice and see. And that's what we want to, when we're coming around and helping and correcting, we're not judging you. We're not your judges. We're just trying to help you get that range of motion, understand the standard.
And most of the time my motivation is because it's good for your joints to move through that range of motion. Like I also want to make that very clear. I'm going to get into a second thing which I think is your next point, but the majority of my motivation is that I want you to have more range of motion because it's good for your body.
Absolutely.
And let's say that she touched on, Clarissa touched on a point about new members. Even members who have been here a long time, I am one of them. We fall victim to this trap all the time of, I know what the standard is. I have got this. Not always. We become complacent. So when coaches are coming to you and asking you, they want to see something else, it's not because we don't trust you or because we don't think we know you can, which is why we're asking this. We're asking for this thing because we know you have the capacity. We know that you can do those things, right? So we ask of it not because we are just trying to nitpick, because we have so much faith in you to get it done. Right. And you know what I'm talking about. And this because the thing is, it's like, I fall victim to it. Sometimes I'm like, does that really count? And I'm like, I don't know. Right. So there's that piece of it that I think is also very important, is that as you progress, do not become complacent, right? Do not stick with the status quo. Continue to be better, continue to work through the full range of motion. Continue to push yourself on things, because we can always strive to be better so that when we go to repeat it, we're even stronger. We can get faster, or we can load more weight.
Yeah.
I love this. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I did this with Clarissa yesterday. We were doing our negative push-ups and nothing was wrong with her push-up. I want to be very clear, nothing was wrong. And I know Clarissa's horizontal pressing is very strong. And so she was doing her push-up with her feet wide and I said, Clarissa, I want you to bring your feet together and go into a gymnastics plank on your toes because I know you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to make you better. Nothing, it was not a call out because she was doing anything wrong. Her push up looked great.
Mm-hmm.
It just was like, I know you can, so why not? As we're all getting better together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I do also want to say about tracking, and this is kind of a call out to myself, is you also should take the bad days into account. When I have a good day, I'm like, this is how I broke it up. I'm feeling good. I got done with this part at this time. And like, I literally like will log literally every single thought I had. On a bad day, I'm like, I suck. Moving on. And then when I come back to that benchmark, I'm like, my only note was that I sucked. What did I do? Like, I always am like, I like kind of regret that because in the moment where I sucked, I didn't take any notes of what was going on.
Totally.
Right. And so I wish that I had those bad days into account so that I could, because once I'm like finished with that workout, I pretty much was like, that doesn't count towards my benchmarks. I'm just like putting that one out because I did bad. Like, and that is not a good way to go about that.
I think it's just like what sucked. Like
Right,
what-
exactly.
Like Monday, we did this 4-time piece with power cleans and then increasing in our gymnastics movements. And like up till the last movement, that ring muscle up, I felt freaking great. Like I hit all my cleans at the prescribed weight. Like everything felt really good. And then I spent 8 minutes like not able to get a single ring muscle up. So like if I didn't log, like, okay, this felt awesome up to this point, and then really like I just sucked here, like I need to work on this, and I just put I suck.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, like
no
you like, what was it, the cleans? Was it the yeah, exactly. So yeah, I know that when I go back to those days, I'm like, why would I do that? Like I really couldn't swallow my pride for 2 seconds and just write what I did. Like, come on. So that's always been a big call out I've had to myself. So if you are like me, take those bad days into account.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say one last thing. I know we're like way over on this.
Oh, we're
However,
good.
I think one thing to also make mention of is we talk about hitting the movement as written. If you want to continue to have observable, measurable, repeatable, you also need to pull it back on days. If you are not feeling good, if you are tight in your shoulders, if your lower back is stressed out and you're not sleeping well and your body's just in a bad position, pull it back, go back to the basics. If you are someone who can usually throw chest to bar together, but that day you're like, oh, I'm not able to move on that shoulder, log that, go down to ring row, right? There is no reason that you cannot pull yourself back. Just because the expectation is you do it as written, there are going to be days that I'm like, oh, I can do bar muscle ups, not feeling great today, I'm going to pull up, right? So in order to maintain those 3 attributes, on those days when you're not able to, pull it back. Your pride does not belong here, right? That ego does not belong here. You need to be open with yourself and be like, today's a ring row day. And that's not a bad thing. Ring rows are hard.
I think they're harder than any the whole
When we ring rode on Monday, I was like, I will never recover.
Yeah. For quick reference, on Monday, there was 30 ring rows after 10 power cleans. And in the notes, it said, pick something you could do maybe about 10 reps at a time. Everyone was doing sets of 3 to 5.
I did 5 and I was like,
So just to reiterate, in order to maintain these 3 things and become repeatable, pull it back, be safe, be smart, right? These are almost like SMART goals, right? These 3 things. So be honest with yourself, log it if you change the movements so that you can come back to that and know what it is.
Love it. Okay, we've already talked on these things a lot, but I know Samantha has something in mind that she wants to talk about. So let's close it off with this. These 2 points is 1, it is so important to have integrity when you are doing these workouts, logging these workouts. The standard is the standard, the reps are the reps, the time is that you end is the time that you end. These types of things are really important, and I want to emphasize they are important for you for you, right? It is not affecting anybody else except for you. So it's important that you have that integrity, and then also the importance of recording scores in beyond the whiteboard. Samantha, did you want to start on this?
yeah, this is a bummer because I'm going to counter you a little
Counter
bit.
me.
Yeah.
Do it.
What Liv said is totally true. The number 1 priority with your integrity is for you. And I want to now come away from being an athlete and come to being a programmer of this gym. And so I think a lot of people, so yes, your logging and your integrity is for you. And so I think a lot of people get too in the mindset that like, oh, well, if I don't do my reps, it doesn't matter. And that is not true, right? Or if I don't always hit it, it doesn't matter. One, we are a community here and we are all making each other better. And so if you are not hitting standards, you are affecting those around you, whether you like it or not. Okay. We preach about how much the community matters, and that comes to our workouts and our integrity. Full stop, period. Second, as a programmer, as we are putting together our program over the weeks, the months, if there is ever a workout where it's like, shit, everybody did worse, or everybody was way outside of what we thought, or way faster than we thought. Like, just imagine for a second, Justin and I live our programming, and we put together a workout and we're like, oh, this should take about 20 minutes. And everybody cheats, but we don't know that, and it takes 12. And we're like, fuck, we were way off. No, we weren't. Everybody cheated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I think people underestimate how much we care about your outcome, not because we care about that individual number, but we care that we are making an impact on you and that we are actually paying attention to that and that you are getting out of our program what we promise you are getting out of our program.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it relies on each and every one of us to have that integrity and to always strive to get better for this whole thing to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and she makes a really good point on programming. If we program something that should take 20 minutes and it takes 12, that's a different workout. We're using different systems. And so like to us, that tells us there was maybe not a hole in the programming, but there was a misstep in our programming.
Yes.
Which, so yeah, that makes a really good point there is we as programmers, we need to know what stimulus this workout is giving. Is it the one we thought?
I think so on that point of Samantha and Liv, and I know that I've had these conversations with members many times on your app, and this is not a plug, this is me just being honest with people so that you can gauge this appropriately to also help others gauge this workout, right? Not even from strictly a programming side, but also from a member standpoint of like another person walking in. I know there's people who are hyper vigilant, looking at scores to say, how well did I do? Did I do okay? Am I around? If you don't go in and if the workout says this is a box jump over, but you do box step overs, you're going to go in and you say, change weights, change movements. Mm-hmm. Why? Because this is helping other members also identify what the real timeline is sometimes, right? I'm not saying that it's necessarily easier. It doesn't mean that it's always easier, right? I have to alter or change movements a lot for workouts. Not able to hop right now. So when I change movements, I'm not going to lie, box jumps versus a jump rope can be harder. So just because you're saying change weights or change movements when you go to log your score does not mean you didn't do the workout. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you didn't hit stimulus. You changed a movement to fit your needs. That's what this whole place is about. Right. We are here to make sure that you come in, you're hitting the stimulus, and if that means you're changing weights, just hit the button. Help the programmers, help individuals at the gym, set a realistic expectation for you yourself as you go to repeat movements throughout your time doing this. I can't emphasize that enough, that it is important to do this for you, for others, because you're not going to progress. You're going to kind of almost like cause a stagnant for you, in my mind. But that's just my thought on this.
Yeah, that's another thing that I want to point out. Like right now, I've been dealing with a shoulder injury. So I've been modifying a lot of the workouts. And I've been really, really intentional with making sure on the workout, not only I put change movements, change weights, I literally change them in the workout.
Yes.
And I've done that for a couple reasons. One, like for instance, the 12 days of Christmas this year, I did a completely different workout than everyone. I didn't even use the same equipment as people. I think maybe one movement was the same, and I finished about 20 minutes before everybody else. Mm-hmm. So one, I don't want people looking beyond the whiteboard and being like, oh my gosh, like I should take 25 minutes in this when really it's going to take you 40, right? 2, I don't want to go back to the 12 days of Christmas next year and go back to my score and be like,
I'm a
20
monster.
minutes slower than I was last year, right? Like those are important data for both parties.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because we say don't compare yourselves to others, and we do mean that in the negative sense. And why CrossFit is so successful is because we have healthy competition, and we have that camaraderie, and we have the like expectations
Mhm.
based off of other people,
Mhm.
kind of around where you should be. So just I also want to stress, like, if you are a casual, like you're very casual and you're like, I can barely make it in here. I've logged once this month. We're not coming after you. I get it. And this is just a core component of CrossFit, which is why we've gotten very passionate about this conversation, right? So I just wanted to also add that in.
I will look at your scores, by the way.
I do. I look at you.
I look at your time sometimes on like weights or something, and I'll just look and be like, okay, cool. So I'm going to be about roughly 20 pounds lighter. I'll be about maybe 10 minutes after her time. Perfect.
This is actually funny. I think there was a workout the other day. You came out and you're like, what did you get in this workout? And I like told you, and I was like, but I modified. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get slower than that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, probably not actually.
And that's not like me degrading. That's not me
Right.
downplaying, right? It's just level setting expectations to be like, okay, so like I need to plan for this.
Mm-hmm.
This is the weight I should probably shoot for depending on how I feel. It's strictly based on helping you level set for that day at the gym.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
She says that she's freaking strong.
I've actually seen people do that, like with weights. They're like, oh, what weight did this person use? Because we usually share a bar,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that just is helpful for me to understand. Like, know, like, okay, we share a bar, we're about the same strength. I'm gonna do that weight too.
Yeah.
I want to add something.
Yeah.
So on Beyond the Whiteboard, just what you just said reminded me. If you don't know, you can follow people on Beyond the Whiteboard. So if you have like a training buddy that kind of helps you level set and they trained before you and they're logging, then you can like look at that. And again, I don't want you to use this as an unhealthy comparison game.
Absolutely.
But if you're already kind of doing it like, oh, they did this, I'm usually within this range of them. This is a good expectation setter for me. Like you can follow people and be on the whiteboard, and then that like can.
Right.
Yeah, I have a whole
Yeah,
like
cool.
feed like
Yeah.
Facebook. that goes through the day.
It's
I'm
our
like, not in
social
my
media.
budget today.
You
Yeah.
can even message on me on the whiteboard.
Yeah. I don't want it to become a negative thing for you, but it is a tool that is available to you for all of the reasons that we've listed out throughout this podcast. Like, please use it. Right.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean it's an addition to your membership.
right.
It's a really cool app, and if you log consistently, it can give you pretty cool data.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
definitely use Beyond the Whiteboard if you haven't, and if you have questions, we all think we're pretty good at using it at this point.
It's been a while.
All this, I just want to finish with one thing on the integrity piece.
Do it.
And this comes from me as a coach, but really more for me as an athlete because I feel very passionately about it. And like, I feel very passionate about like CrossFit as a sport as well. And like the future of that and what that looks like is like, I want to win because I was the best athlete and the fittest, not because I was the best cheater.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like that is really
Right.
important.
Yeah, and that you come across those types of things more in a competition setting too, because like she said, a lot of the standards happen in competitions, or that's what people relate it to. And in competitions, people try to line the standard, right?
Oh.
How much can I not squat to death to not get a no rep, right?
Mhm.
Because that's kind of how a competition works. That is not the same as the gym, right? If anything, it's like, who's going to go the deepest in their squat, right? So definitely knowing and understanding the difference, especially if you are a competitor and you enjoy being a competitor, knowing the difference between competition standard and the standard we expect from you in the gym.
Yeah.
And that gets to your training days are different than benchmark days or test days, right?
Mhm.
Competition is a test. Your training days, you are going to get better the more you push the standard, not like towing the line, but push beyond the standard
Yeah.
and hit more range of motion, more of that. And then if you're in a competition setting, maybe that's not the time you push that standard, but you know without a doubt that you can hit all those movements because you go beyond it all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as someone who does compete, I try if I'm cheating the standard in here, then most likely the muscle memory that I'm going to cheat that standard in a competition and no rep, no rep, no rep is very high. If I'm in the gym as a competitor and I'm practicing that movement to standard every day as much as possible, then like the probability that I go to a competition and that I'm not getting no reps and I'm able to do better is like much higher.
Absolutely.
I think this just goes back to CrossFit is what you want it to be in so many ways, right? If you are someone who's competitive, you use it to that advantage, right? You use it to help you in that sense. If you are here because you don't want to gain 30 pounds back and you want to just stay moving inside and outside the gym and you want to be able to play with your grandkids and you want to, right, all of those things, all of the movements we do in here, those observable movements, those measurable movements, those repeatable movements are there to benefit you. That's all it is, right? It is here to give you what you need. That's why CrossFit is infinitely scalable for everyone so that we can all continue to do those things in here, outside of here, in whatever capacity. So just do what you need to come in here. We're here to help you. We are helping you maintain those three things. And we're going to continue to push you because we want the best for you, what that means for you.
I think that's
Awesome.
a great.
Yeah, great work. Yeah, so just to end it off, CrossFit is observable, measurable, repeatable. Thanks for joining, guys. Good job. Yeah.